Hey guys, good afternoon. Officer Pierce here. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not practicing law. I'm not giving you legal advice. Just giving you information that I've had available from being an officer for 11 years. So, there's been a lot of questions about filing a petition because you've met somebody or you're getting married to someone or have gotten married to someone that is an immigrant. So they are here in this country either illegally or you've met them at another place. You met them in Italy, you've met them in Mexico, China, any of the other places around. So the first thing that you have to do, you have to file what's called an I-130. And to do that, there's some really specific rules. So from the instruction sheet, which you should always read first before you do any forms on immigration, read the instruction sheets first, because it will tell you a lot of information that is pertinent to filing the paperwork, whether you're filing an N-400 for naturalization, you're filing the 765 for a work authorization, or a 485 for adjustment of status. Any of them are ones that you need to read the instructions. I did this for 11 years and I still went and read the instructions on a regular basis just to be sure things hadn't changed. So to file an I-130, the first things that are important that must be there is they must be a spouse, they must be an unmarried child under 21, they must be an unmarried son or daughter under 21, they must be your married son or daughter of any age. Their brothers and sisters must be 21 years or older, and your mom or your dad must be 21 years or older. That's as a U.S. citizen. So if you're a U.S. citizen and you're trying to file for your parents, right? You've been a U.S. citizen here, you've got naturalized yesterday, and now you want to get your parents here. So you would file this as a U.S. citizen or parents of a U.S. citizen. So if you're a permanent resident, you would file, the only ones that you're allowed to file are as a spouse. So if you're married, so you're a permanent resident, you meet your love of your life, and you want her to, or him, to come here to the U.S. to live with you because you are married, but you're only a legal permanent resident, so you have a residence card, is a spouse, an unmarried child under 21, or an unmarried son or daughter under 21. That's the only way you can file. So if you file as a U.S. citizen, you have a little more leeway of what you can file compared to filing as a legal permanent resident. So if you file as a U.S. citizen, once you get the I-130 done, you still have to file the I-130A, and you have to submit them together. So you can't file an I-130 and then go, oh yeah, I'll file the 130A later. They have to be filed together. So once you get those filed, you have a couple of options. Depending on how the person got here, where the person lives, what that person's status is you can either file as adjustment right that time, or you can file as a consulate process. So let's say you were in Italy and you met the love of your life, you got married in Italy, but that person's still an Italian citizen. So they need to stay in Italy. But you come back here because your job, your home, you have things to do. So you can file an I-130 for that person. And if you're a U.S. citizen, then an I-130A concurrently. Sorry, still been getting over a cold. Now, once you do that, then they will do is, once it's approved, they will do what's called a consular process. So they will be called to the consulate in their area, and then they will meet with an officer there. The officer will go through the process. If the officer approves them, then when they arrive here, they will be a permanent resident. Or I'm sorry, they will, yes, they will have their residence status. Now, they could either have their resident status for a 2-year or a 10-year. But that's another video I'll get into. If you're interested in that information, let me know, and I'll be glad to cover that in more detail. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So once you file the I-130, it does take a while. You need, like I said, read the instructions and follow the what is required. So birth certificates, marriage licenses, any other documentation showing you two as a couple. That way, whenever the officer's looking at it, he knows what he needs to find. Then, let's see, what else can I tell you about it? Something else I wanted to say. Okay, so anyway, but that gets you started. But again, before you start anything on any application, whether it's a 485 for adjustment of status or a naturalization and 400 and 600 for kids, read the instructions, because the instructions will tell you a lot of what is needed. And then get your information filed. Some applications can be filed online, and that does help the process, because what happens is, instead of having to mail it, now that takes, let's say, 2 or 3 days for the mail to get back there, then it goes into a big box, and then people start opening them and start putting them in the system. But if you do it electronically, it drops that 4 or 5 days. Some applications will allow you to, by filing it online, it'll give you a little bit of a discount. Not much, like 50 or 60 bucks, but it's still, the other thing too is when you file it online, it's not quite instant, but gets in the system a lot faster, and it starts getting in front of somebody a lot quicker. Be sure whenever you're doing it is you mark whether you're going to do the adjustment here in the United States or you're going to do a consular process. Because if you don't mark it, then it defaults to a consular process. Anyway, okay guys, if you got questions, let me know. If you like this kind of content, let me know as well, and I'll see what other content we can do. I know that somebody asked about doing a 601 benefits, and I'm working on getting that done. All right, hope you guys have a good one. Take care. Again, ask questions if you need, and thank you.